Hi everybody. I apologize in advance for the movements of my camera and for the click 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 sound. This is not the perfect position to be filming, but I bet that there are many of the students who are already asking the question, what should I write in those sections A and sections B, Unit 1 and Unit 2? So I've got a feeling that it's high time we're filming a couple of videos with the utmost practical value. So today we're covering Unit 1, Question 1, example, taken from one of the previous examination series. It is written by one of my former students. Before we jump to the work, which is Question 1 for today, Section A, I'd like to remind you that you can easily find the assessment objectives that are highly recommended to be looked through for you in order to understand in very formal terms what the examiners are looking for in your writing. So to rush through them quickly, the first one is apply appropriate methods of language analysis using associated terminology and coherent written expression. The second one, demonstrate critical understanding of concepts and issues relevant to language use. The third one, analyze and evaluate how contextual factors and language features are associated with the construction of meaning. And last but not least, explore connections across texts informed by linguistic concepts and methods. I believe that the details of these formulations will be explained away in some other video when it's time. I think I will be able to introduce some short one, but we jump to the example of Section A, Unit 1. I'm not telling you which examination series it is, not only because I've already forgotten, but because I think it makes little sense. So in general terms, I really want to introduce the particular parts of this answer that I really like. And if I were an examiner, I would really praise them and advance the level of the final marking that I were giving. So the student starts with a general introduction, speaking about what and who the speakers are, and they say that two texts that can be explored on the basis of connection of language and identity. Here I would rather say that the context, so I would rather suggest the function of the text, and how the contexts help in constructing the meaning and that is transmitted, and the identity of the speakers and the particular features of those identities. So you should start with a introduction where you present one or two things in very general terms. After that, we're jumping into the comparison already. Those who have forgotten, you should be writing a comparative evaluation because we have two modes, two speakers, two contexts. All that is compared in your section A. So after that, I would rather be speaking about the contexts. So what I do not really like in this one is that the student is jumping to suggest the function of quotations, which is, even though related to the mode, I would rather say that there should be follow-ups to the first mode, which is written, and it is, as far as I remember, an article posted on the United Nations news website. And the speech is given by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. So then the student writes about the features of the article which is published. So they call them features of the spoken mode presented in the article, because the Secretary General is given a speech, but it is presented in the form of an article. So I would say that it is just conventional, right? Some features are conventions of the speech which is being given there. After that, the student introduces multiple fields, which is good. So we are covering the contextual factors terminology. I'm using the green to show it. So we have mode here. Also, and all other terms are also in green bubbles. So I have quotations. Then we come to the field or fields. You can always specify which is the main one, and then the subordinate fields or secondary fields. So it's just it is read in a way that this is a descriptive approach here. So, and you may remember that, or maybe you discover right now that the descriptive approach is not what we need. But the beginning seems to be pretty descriptive. So the student is writing about the contextual factors, even though it is good that the terms related to the contextual factors are remembered, but it is a presentation of details about them, because after that we have purpose and then audience, and we're jumping to text B because everything above is spoken about text A. So speaking of text B, I believe that it is the same strategy, it is the same plan. You just present the contextual factors. So that is why my comment here is that there is a lack of that comment part, if you remember about the point quote comment structure, which means that it is better to suggest what effect does, and you take the point, or you take what you see in relation to the contextual factor and related to the construction of the identity, or related to the specific language choices, and you evaluate the effect of them, at least in very general terms, such as so speaking of what is being done later, this structure is followed later in the upcoming points, which is nice. So the student then proceeds speaking about the field, and then the purpose, which is the text is to tell about the program called plan, and so on and so forth. We're now speaking about text B. Then there is the audience, description of the audience, that this is young people willing to join the program, and so on and so forth. So it is still descriptive. I would say that it is really, really, really descriptive till that moment. So, which is not the introduction anymore, but rather an introduction to the context, okay? So if you follow the structure of the general introduction and then the introduction to the context, which is reasonable, you still want to evaluate something. So you see, don't be descriptive, because you're going to lose points. Because description is not what we need. The descriptive tone is not what we need. The next paragraph, by the way, speaking about the work as a whole, I really like the paragraph structures. So the structure and the paragraphing is very decent in this work. The student proceeds in terms of lexis and semantics. So we're now introducing the lexical and semantical level, which is the why words, why these words are used and what is their effect. We introduce the term of semantic field, of problems of the elderly, and then there are examples of this semantic field: age discrimination, healthcare, autonomy, social protection, and then there is the part which is the comment on this. It is here, so I mark it as an OK point. It does follow the point quote comment structure with the final evaluation, which is the answer to the question, why does the speaker use? these words or this particular semantic field. I give a note here that in short it is we find the particular lexical choices, say several semantic fields, and then we answer the question, what does the speaker want to achieve, which is the function. So we relate the lexical choices to the specific contextual factor, which is the function. So after that, which must be a separate point, by the way, here, the student writes about the use of personal pronouns, and I believe that personal pronouns must be related to grammar and syntax, not really words that carry specific meaning or help to present and build up some effective meanings, but nevertheless, the student speaks about personal pronouns. They give the examples. You can make them shorter, so please do not rewrite the whole sentences. Summarize these points rather. So it is I and we are community, so I would even highlight the words that are related to I and we, especially we, because then the follow-up here is that the student relates this point to a nice theoretical background, which is communication accommodation theory suggested by Howard Giles. And the effect or the purpose, once again, is to converge with all the people and thus underline the fact that the writer or the speaker understands their problems, which is a decent point. Maybe there can be some addition to it, which is not only to understand the points, but also to take further action. So maybe you can look for some follow-up here, not only understanding, but, doing something, because, well, it's nice to understand, but what do you do with it? So I mark it as kind of alright. It does follow the structure. It also does introduce the theoretical background, which is an important point, and many people forget about it. The weak point in the work is that there is only one theoretical background presented by the students, so we really want more. I think that at least 2, better 3, 4, and 5, of course, but it depends on your memory of those concepts. So we move on. Then there is the comparison of that to text B, which is great. I would rather introduce it in a way that in one paragraph you want to introduce some point and then make a comparison within one paragraph. All right. So the student writes here that in text B it is it is I, and the purpose of this personal, tone. So I have not seen tone here, by the way. So we really want to introduce tone here as well somewhere, because it is definitely the contextual factor that is related to the use of personal pronouns, whether for convergence or divergence. So the student writes that it is to show that the speaker is a part of that big mission. So not really something highlighting the individuality, you see, because I is definitely to highlight the individuality of the speaker. Maybe diverge if we want to refer to the theory once again. So this is definitely a weaker continuation compared to the beginning, but overall it makes sense. It's all right. Then we're coming back to semantic field again. This is a weak spot, definitely. So look, we've had semantic fields before. Let it be this one. Then we have the communication accommodation theory. Then we have another follow-up related to it, not mentioned. And then we come back to the semantic fields. So, like, what is the sense here? I don't know. So basically, you really want to train yourself to introduce the point refer to text A and text B within the paragraph, within the point, make it a comparison, and after that move to the next one. So don't jump, speak semantic field, then personal pronouns, and then semantic fields again, because it makes the structure of this particular part and the particular point weaker. You don't want to appear weaker, you want to appear stronger. The examiners want to see that you really see the structure of your response so that it makes powerful sense. After that, the student introduces the contextual factor of audience, which is great. I do not really see the comment here, or it's rather given at the very end, and it is very short, which is it's important since the primary audience is the youth. So the it's about the internet words such as Facebook, Skype, videos, you see. So I would rather start by presenting the audience and then relating this introduction to the use of words, and then suggesting that the purpose or why is that to appeal to them, or to, as it is written here, to use relevant strategies of spreading the information. This is the part, even though it doesn't really sound, really reasonable here, but it's fine. After that, kind of fine. So the student speaks about graphology, titles, dates, subtitles. Nice. You can speak about structure, and paragraphing, because graphology is the visual representation, but there is so much terminology related to it. For some reason, by the way, I would only focus on what is really visual. You know what I mean? So then conventions, articles of articles and blogs are suggested, and paragraphing as a whole, which is not bad. Again, lacking comment here at the end. So the point on effective structure. This whole thing is the point on effective structure. So we really want to again summarize, at least in our own words, what is the strength of such paragraphing, of such structure. Also, it's great if you see that some representation goes like introduction, main points, or points for, or points against, and then the conclusion, or the opinion, for example. Which is your understanding of the structure that the speaker follows. So you really show that you're being attentive. The student goes after the graphological representation to quotations. Again, I think it must be a separate paragraph here, of course. But I think that in that recommendation, quotations were related to graphology, which is all right. It's just, you see, that if you introduce quotations, you need to refer to the quotation marks, because this is the graphological feature. So, and the function is, of course, to quote the exact wording that was used by the speaker. The next paragraph here is about grammar and syntax must be added. So standard grammar mentioned, proficiency in the English language, nice. Syntax is of text A, represents a great number of quotations again, so it's some kind of focal point here. You can speak about the types of sentences, some syntax features such as parallel constructions, repetitions, if we speak about the spoken mode, and so on and so forth. So you really want to be prepared for the syntax tools related to this part. Here, the side note is that, again, you want to introduce the point in general, give function 1, give function 2, in text A and in text B in one paragraph. So it's all the same to make it comparative and evaluative in one paragraph. Level of formality introduced. I don't even see the comment here because it's about quotations again. So let's just skip this part. You see, in text A, quotations are for 1, 2, while in text B, they are for 3 and 4. The same thing I've just said. Introduce and compare in one point, in one paragraph. Don't make it messy. After that, in terms of discourse, so we speak about discourse, which is being coherent, and it is related to the use of discourse markers to structure the representation of ideas, or for the readers to track the ideas, which is all right, not bad. Another term discourse markers used. So the author uses different ways to introduce the opinion, which must be, you see, related to one of the former points about the use of pronouns and tone. So I would really like seeing a paragraph own tone, especially when we spoke about the semantic fields and so on and so forth. But here the reporting verbs are mentioned, which is showed, sad, underscored, and it's all right in text B, discourse markers as well. So also during, and they satisfy the same person as in text A, which was, by the way, introduce, yeah, him. Yes, you can specify some more functions that discourse markers fulfill. And then I believe there is the summary, the ending, the conclusion. Here the conclusion is to just summarize some basic points that were mentioned before, which leads to my comment, and I'd rather summarize with some main language features helping in the identity representation. So given that not much was stated about the identity of the speakers, especially in terms of the comparison, I would really like seeing a concluding paragraph summarizing the pictures about the speakers on the basis of some points, maybe some points mentioned above, or some points that have not been mentioned above, as a final paragraph, because this one just summarizes something that has been introduced, and my suggestion is to introduce even more. And of course, I would also recommend stating more theoretical background, such as theories and concepts with the names of the people that worked at them and were the first to introduce them. So make these references to alleviate the level of your written performance. I really hope that this review helps you, and in this work you can definitely make use of some structures and points that were introduced by the student. Thank you very much for the attention, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.